Thank grace of heaven, virtues of master, all Buddhas and saints, grand predecessor, transmitters, lecturers, and everyone to give me this opportunity to share my research on legends of Ji-Gong living Buddha. My goal is to inspire among Tao cultivators with his stories and his laughter. Ji-Gong in history. Ji-Gong. Whose earthly name?
Yeah, that's a title.
That's a title?
That's a title. That's not name.
Right, okay. So, whose earthly name was Li Xiuyuan, was born in Yongling Village, Tiantai County, Taizhou, Zhejiang Province. His father was Li Maocun, and mother had a surname Wang. At the age of 18, his parents passed away, and he went to Lingyin Temple of Hangzhou and became a monk. Since then, he used the Buddhist name Dao Ji, and his teacher was Hui Yuan, an old and blind abbot, and said to know the real identity of Ji-Gong. Ji-Gong dislikes sutra chanting and meditation sitting, and he likes eating meat and drinking alcohol and even prefer garlic dog meat. Again, this part we know it's for the storytelling. Okay?
What period is that?
This
Song Dynasty.
right,
Yeah, Song.
Song Dynasty, right? Southern Song, I think. 1,200
800 AD, right?
before. This is
900 AD.
before that.
No, Nansong is late.
Yeah, it is
It's
Nansong.
probably 900
What is a
AD.
Nansong?
It's after Tang, at the Tang Dynasty. No, so it should be 1100. So it's about
It's 1100.
800 years ago. 900 years ago, roughly 900 years ago.
So all these food were absolutely prohibited in Buddhism. He always wore a worn-out clothes and hats, and keep a broken reed fan and a flask. The fan symbolizes the act of letting negative energy go and consciously bringing the positive energy. Due to his unrestrained, he was accused by other monks. His teacher said, "The gate of Buddhism is so vast. Why is this crazy monk not forgiven?" Therefore, he had this nickname, Crazy Monk, after his teacher passed away. He was forced to move to Jinci Temple. He was quite proficient in the medicine and saved many people from death. And then he was respected as living Buddha Ji-Gong. Legendarily speaking, he was the earthly arhat of taming dragon. So I was looking around, what's this taming dragon? According to the Chinese legend, the monk Ji-Gong is a reincarnation of a Mahakasyapa. I don't know how true that is. So you know, that's a little confusing to me.
Yeah, Maha. Or, yeah.
He's the first disciple of the Buddha who, you know, the flower sermon, that's the one.
I know it's before, yeah, Ji-Gong, right before he joined the monastery, right? Or right after.
He was in the monastery. I think
No, when he became
the
enlightened.
abbot kicked him or did something and then he became a monk.
Light, yeah, right after.
That's
right after.
one of the websites said that.
On the website.
I mean, I think
Yeah, I
he
don't know.
he
I was
the
surprised.
incarnation of an arhat. That's what
Right, that's for sure. He is an incarnation of the Arhat.
It's a title means
saving the world,
to
saving
help
others,
everybody,
saving
yeah,
others,
to
saving others.
save others. Yeah.
So here's the Ji-Gong story. The legends of Ji-Gong were sourced from the late period of the Southern Song Dynasty. That's 1127 to 1279.
Yeah, so it's about 900 years.
And the folk storytellers began taking his life experience as a theme and up to Qin Dynasty, That's 1644 to 1912. A storybook named Complete Stories of Ji-Gong was published. His stories actually were sourced. The story of Master Bao Zi, I actually don't know who that is, who living in the Northern and Southern Dynasty. Later, some folk stories and beliefs were blended, and Ji-Gong became a featured immortal of Buddhism and Taoism. Yiguan Dao worshipped Ji-Gong and lists him as one of the gods, and considers their founding master Zhang Tianran to be the incarnation of Ji-Gong. That's our 18th patriarch. In China, people would put two crickets together and watch them fight. The crickets, in this case, symbolize the internal battle we have with ourselves. We fight in order to develop our strength and to understand and transform our weaknesses. It is a spiritual battle, and we aspire to constantly take ourselves to a higher level of understanding, awareness, and practice. The flask Ji-Gong carries represents non-attachment and the temporal nature of the material world. It is said that while he was alive, he carried around a flask which people presume was alcohol. However, he could change the liquid to be vinegar, water, or another liquid, so people were constantly surprised when they drank out of it. Ji-Gong tried to teach others not to judge anything based on external appearances. He did not care what people looked like or where they came from. If they had a good heart, he would try to help them. One time, Ji-Gong and his students were freezing cold and had no way of getting warm. Ji-Gong tore down the wooden altar they used for worship and made a fire out of it. One of his students was horrified and cried out, "What are you doing? That's our sacred altar." Ji-Gong took the statue of Buddha and cut it into two pieces. The student exclaimed, "You are cutting Buddha! Don't do that." Ji-Gong answered, "This statue is not Buddha. This is just wood." He wanted to teach his students how to let go of material attachments. That was really matters is the true heart. Wood decays over time. Compassion is timeless. It touches people at the deepest level. It was not important to Ji-Gong whether or not a person appeared to have great virtue. Appearances meant nothing to him. He was only interested in qualities of one's heart. Okay. One popular story tells of Ji-Gong using paranormal powers to pull logs out of a well. Anybody heard of that? A temple was to be built in Hangzhou and desperately needed wood. The best wood was found only in Sichuan province, some 900 miles away. The monks were desperate, but that did not stop Ji-Gong. He used his powers to bring the logs over one after another. The other monks piled them up until monk charged with counting them suddenly shouted, "Enough!" Ji-Gong had already beckoned another log, but hearing the monk yell, he stopped it. That last log remained half submerged in the well.
I suppose you could go to that temple and see the well with the log.
It's still there.
Yeah,
And
Still there.
that's what they said. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it still a running
I've never
well
seen
or
it.
is it dried up?
No, it's still water.
I guess there's water.
and
Interesting.
and later generations built a pavilion.
Pavilion.
Pavilion. Yeah, it's a large tent or something like that. Like over it, naming it the Divine Teleportation Well.
Teleportation.
What does that mean, teleportation?
How it came through for no reason,
Just move it.
teleported right, from one place to
just-
another place.
Oh, interesting.
Buddhas can do that.
Yeah.
Powers. What can I say?
So another story which inspired the
Transcend space.
Shen Yun dance. Does anybody know that group? It's here. 神韵.
Yeah,
Okay.
singing truth.
Yeah.
Oh, don't they perform that thing
Exactly.
in Lincoln Center?
So-
Remember you said you saw it.
神韵. 神韵 dance. Ji-Gong abducts the bride. This is pretty popular story, I think. So yeah, recounts the monks.
Abducts.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Abducts the bride. Abducts the bride.
Excuse me. That's to wake you guys up.
Oh yeah, that's a funny one. That's a funny story.
Recounts the monks created ways to rescue people from imminent danger, even if against their will. One day, monk Ji-Gong was walking towards a Lingyin temple when suddenly he felt a sudden jolt to his heart. You know, like something gonna happen, right? Sensing something amiss, he used his ability to clairvoyance to investigate and saw that a mountain peak was about to come crashing down on a nearby village. Ji-Gong began shouting to the townspeople, warning them to run for their lives, but they just laughed and dismissed him as the crazy monk talking nonsense again. It wasn't that Ji-Gong spotted a wedding procession in the village. He barged in, snatched the bride, threw her over his shoulder, and ran. The groom and the wedding guests called all of their family and friends to chase after the kidnapper. Before long, the entire village was chasing after them. No sooner had they gone past the village gate than a giant mountain peak nearby collapsed, landing on the village with a crash. Huge rocks flew everywhere, shattering roofs and flattening buildings in an instant. Ji-Gong had rescued the village, but just then he noticed that back in the village a little girl was staggering behind and gigantic boulder was thundering toward her. He immediately aimed his palm at the boulder and instantly forced it back with his powers, saving her life. The famous boulder is now called Hangzhou Flying Peak. And today, visitors can see the imprint of his hand sunk into the base of the rock.
That must be the Buddhist palm.
Yeah, so
Buddhist palm.
That technique.
Palm or finger?
you know a lot of
Buddhist palm.
the TV shows, right? For the Ji-Gong, the Legends of Ji-Gong. A lot of them, he as a character in the show, he has kung fu or somehow. He has martial arts.
Well,
So-
he can do a lot of magical, yeah.
Abilities. He's a Buddha. He's a Buddha.
I'm not saying
Can you speak louder so other people can hear
Holy
you?
teacher is going against the law of causality, but like it seems that he quote unquote interfere. It seems like that he interfere in the affairs of humans, or like for example those villagers that are supposed to be crushed by the landslide or whatever. But I think it also goes to because maybe those people had affinity in their prior lives with Holy Teacher, and maybe they have some kind of merit, and so Holy Teacher in this lifetime is bestowing them, a gift. I mean, or requiting, that their merit. You know what I'm saying? So we don't know, but it seemed like from our perspective.
Yeah, I mean the Buddhas can deflect the karma, the karmic retribution for maybe temporarily.
When you say deflect, it means delay.
Delay,
They can
maybe,
or sometimes you can transform.
yeah, maybe transform
Lessen
to a
it,
different
mitigate,
type,
mitigate.
a different type
You
or
can
whatever.
mitigate,
Yeah,
you can
possibly.
mitigate it
So,
too.
yeah.
See, Buddhas have those powers. We don't.
Well, but also as you can say as a living being. Well, maybe he also take on some of the
Bird.
burden, the karma as well by doing that. So.
He knows what he's doing. There must be a reason why he's doing all these.
Well, I mean, you do your best to try to save people,
Yeah.
no matter what, right? So that's what he was doing.
Yeah, but you can't do it to the point where you violate, certain quote unquote principles. I mean, you can delay, mitigate, reduce, or transform, transmute, from one form of cause of effect to another effect.
Just like this morning, you talked about the story of the Buddha. He was feeling the headache because when he was a child, he was using a stick hitting the fish's head. And the whole village got, destroyed. And then one of the disciples trying to save the village, but you saved once, but you won't be able to save. If it's meant to be, it's going to happen again.
It depends on level. Remember, that's why I say degree of karma. There's what they call fixed karma. Yeah, if it's light or heavy, you can say light or heavy. So if it's light, it's not too heavy, then you can still transform, transmute, change. Transmute means change, right? To change. But if it's really, really heavy, then even Buddhas will be difficult to change, because then I wouldn't say they violate, but then that means still be going against. That was in the 10 admonitions, right? Then God said in one of, I think it's number 4th or 5th, he said, there are certain, quote unquote crimes or things, deeds that are very severe, right? We learned, right? The right? The 5 taboos, but the 5 very sins, that's very very severe, very very severe sins, right? So that would be hard. That would be difficult to eliminate. Because it's very severe.
Yeah.
So it depends on the level of severity too, right? There are different degrees. And also, that's just on one side. The other half of the equation is how much merit you have. If they already have a lot of merit, then they could offset more. You see what I'm saying? So there's it's a very intricate balancing act or something like that. Okay, on balance. Sorry.
That's okay. So here's another legendary story about saving a person's life. Once Ji-Gong saw an old man trying to hang himself from a tree. The man made a noose and was placing his neck into it when suddenly he saw Ji-Gong, dressed in rags, coming his way, chanting, "Die, die, everything is over after I die. Death is better than living. I will hang myself now." Ji-Gong also made a noose and looked like he was going to hang himself, side by side with the old man from the same tree.
That's funny.
The old man was puzzled and asked Ji-Gong why he, a monk, would want to commit suicide. Ji-Gong told him that he was commissioned to raise money to remodel the monastery. He had begged for 3 years and collected some money. But on his way back to the monastery, he stopped at a bar, got drunk, and somebody stole all his money. Having no faith to go back to the monastery, he decided to end his life. The old
Isn't that
man...
considered lying?
No, it's using wisdom.
Yeah,
This is
he's-
really
Yeah,
an
okay.
example.
Giving him an example. Yeah.
The old man believed his story and said, "Don't worry, I happen to have some money, which is no use for me anymore." He gave Ji-Gong 5 pieces of silver, which is all the money he had. Ji-Gong took the silver and said, "Your silver does not shine as much as what I used to have, but I will take them." So he took the money and walked away with the grind in his face. The old man felt even sadder and proceeded his suicide attempt. But Ji-Gong returned. The old man thought the monk came back to thank him for the money. But Ji-Gong said, "I see you have got nice clothing. Why don't you give that to me? Also, so you can nakedly leave this world just as you nakedly came? The old man was stunned. He looked up the sky and sighed. Why is it as difficult to die as it is to live? And how can I end my misery? Ji-Gong said, look, after you die, the wild dogs will come to tear you up, and your nice clothing will be wasted. But if you give it to me, I will make a good use of it. Ji-Gong continues to tease and play with the desperate man until the latter became amused and started to laugh with Ji-Gong. The old man soon found this eccentric monk quite friendly and extremely entertaining. He started to open his heart and told Ji-Gong his tragic story about the loss of his daughter. His suicidal mindset miraculously dissolved. Ji-Gong helped him to recover his daughter, and the story had a happy ending.
These older teacher use, reverse psychology. So that man, that old man was so desperate. He was so fixated, right? So he was so fixed, okay, life. Well, I'm dead. I'm something suicide because he figured there's no hope. So Ji-Gong, see, that's called wisdom. That's an application. Because most normal people would not think like that. I mean, most, maybe some psychologists may, but I don't know. But the most normal people would not do that. Would not do that. I would not think like that. So this is an example of what we call wisdom. Okay. So whoa, that's not in the textbook. That's not in the textbook. Right. I mean, it isn't. I mean, you normally, if you were going to read, hostage negotiation textbook or, school 101, they would teach you like that. Say, yeah, you encourage the terrorists or the hostages to kill the hostages. You would read that. I mean, you wouldn't learn that. But this is just an example. Okay? So the whole idea is to try to get that person to not become so attached to that notion, so that once then there's an opening, once they become less attached, once there's an opening, then you can quote unquote talk some sense into that person to understand and realize, taking one's life doesn't still solve the issue, the underlying issue, right? So that's something to bear in mind, that we should not become so, yeah. I don't want to say so attached, but yeah, it is a type of attachment, but so mired and sink so low that we think that there is no more hope. So you can say one of the lessons of that story is that, say, there's always hope. You can say that. So that's a positive spin. It could get worse. It could be worse, right? Or another way of saying is it could be worse. So that's one thing. All of us should bear in mind. I mean, because sometimes, I feel so. Oh man, this is like this is the worst. Worst. There's no hope, no light at the end of the tunnel. So I think we have to bear in mind that there is always something. And why? It makes sense when you look at it from a non-attached view, because everything under the sun or in our galaxy happened due to conditions, it's conditioned. Get it? And so those conditions are not permanent, are never permanent. They're always changing. So therefore, it's not fixed. Nothing's fixed, right? So there is always hope. Get it? So that's one way to look at it. Okay?
So Lecturer Kai kind of went ahead of me.
See, I anticipated.
Looking at the first part of the story, what Ji-Gong has done cannot be considered good based on conventions. He shows no pity and sorrow for the desperate man, and even cheats money out of the poor man by fabricating a story. On the other hand, he has successfully intervened a suicidal attempt and saved a person's life, which is indeed not bad. Therefore, what Ji-Gong has done in the story cannot be judged on the basis of conventions as either good or bad. This story of Ji-Gong is a classified example of a somatic play as the Zen's manner of interaction with people. Samadhi refers to a non-dualistic state of mind, and somatic play is an extraordinary mode of action in which subject and object merge to form a heavenly flow. In the somatic play with others, the line that demarcates self and others becomes softened or even dissolved. I looked it up. Samadhi. It's very interesting. It's San Mei, right? In Chinese, it's San Mei. It's also in Chinese. It's also meant San Mo Di. Okay, and I searched a little bit about it, and I found this website as www.ananda.org. It has a very good explanation of what it is. So let me just read it to you. It says, perfect union of the individualized soul with the infinite spirit. A state of oneness, complete absorption. Samadhi, which literally means to direct together, is a state in which the yogi perceives the identity of his soul as a spirit. It is an experience of divine ecstasy as well as of superconscious perception. The soul perceives the entire universe. In other words, human consciousness becomes one with a cosmic consciousness. I think this is what we all trying to achieve. Once we're at that level, that's how come the Buddha, that would be the Buddha level. That's how they can feel the sentient beings, how they feel. So they kind of know how they feel. Yeah, that oneness.
Be at one, that it also means that the Buddha is also you.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
There's no
subject object,
separation.
there's no separation.
No separation. It's just one.
Everything is one. We are all, so we feel the same thing. We all feel
Right.
the same thing, sense the same thing. So you are, in psychology, we say we're in perfect empathy or harmony with everything, with all, with one, right?
So the soul realizes that it is much more than the conditioned body. Christian saints have previously described this experience as a mystical marriage, in which the soul merges into God and becomes one with Him. In the Mahasiyamapta.
Mahakasyapa.
No, this is a different one. His Chinese name is 大智士菩萨.
Oh,
Right.
How do you say that?
Yeah, Rapta.
I don't know.
Okay, so
Yeah, I don't know. That's a different spelling.
大智士菩萨修行法门，大势至 yeah.
Literal translation means great strength, great power, great strength.
Yeah, so
He means he's the immovable, 不动的，不会被动的。
don't get interfered or by
Nothing
external disturbed,
uninfluenced,
right.
or not influenced.
Perturbable.
Unperturbed, right.
Yeah.
So
Immovable.
so in this lecture, I captured the explanation from Lecture Lil that explains in this Suragama gathering or Suragama Dharma gathering. And Shakyamuni Buddha asked the 25 Dharmas from each Buddha to talk about their own. And he explained his Dharma is to control the 6 roots. Since the 6 roots are no longer in command, the true nature is restored, and that stillness is in the state of samadhi. Note in Sanskrit, They are different types of samadhi. It's called, there's a, I guess you have to look at, he mentioned that you have to look at the spelling. Samadhi spelled as Samadhi, but there's also called samatha, samatha, Samatha. And then there's another one, it's called dhyana. They all mean the same thing, but they, which also mean that they're in a deep meditative state of mind or concentration. And okay, so we talked about samadhi already. Now this is samatha. Samatha, Lecture Liu mentions, it basically means it weighs more on the understanding or the comprehension or the awareness, the truth of Dharma. Something it will be sometimes it will be interpreted as to cease. It is mostly used in cessation of the delusional thoughts. One is capable to remove or emancipate worldly defilements or forms. These are like, like very small
Well, these
difference.
are very, let's say, nuances. Okay, so you can look at it as 定 跟 hui. Okay, you can look at samatha as 定. 定 means then you are perfectly at still. You can say peace. At peace, tranquil, or 如如不动. You can say like that. Okay?
Which one is that?
Samatha.
Samatha is zi.
Yeah, 自 that means
It's not 定, it's
yeah,
zi.
you cease.
Yeah, to cease.
Yeah, but that means you 定. That means you are at the perfect state of, you can say, stillness or
Right.
tranquility. Whatever you want to call it. Okay. Then samadhi is more like the application. I don't say application, the manifestation of that
Right,
定,
it's
of that state. Get it? So samatha, samadhi. It's just like it's basically it's all one really, but these are two aspects of the same thing, same state. That absolute state, the 究竟 state, that 究竟, right? 究竟 means absolute, right? 究竟状态, 究竟 the 状态, absolute state. Okay, so those are the two aspects. You get it? One's more like internal, the other one's more external. I mean that's how that's how we separate that. Okay, understand? I mean these are very slight nuances. It gets more detail, but that's okay. It's in the list, by the way. So.
Yeah, okay, so there's a samadhi, there's a samatha, and there's a dhyana.
There's
Dhyana,
also vipassana too. That's okay.
right, vipassana is also,
Vipassana, right?
I think that's within the dhyana,
Yeah.
right? There's 4 different ways of,
Yeah. It's in the list too, by the way. Dhyana means concentration, but it's just a different
it's
aspect.
a mental absorption
Yeah.
towards the mindful awareness of objects. Okay, so, alright, so let's continue. In the story of saving a suicidal person, Ji-Gong the Savior presents himself as a suicidal man in order to approach another suicidal man. He appears to be even more deplorable and corrupted than the one he is poised to help. In the story, the suicidal man finds himself in a situation where he cannot help feeling sympathy for Ji-Gong and gives the monk all the money he has. Suicide is not a solution for anyone.
Yeah, also the
If
Buddhists,
one-
believe suicide
Right, there you go. So if
creates
one
bad karma.
Right, if one commits a suicide, his hurt soul will be locked in the place called Wang Si Chen. Okay, I don't know the translation. Until the actual dying age is reached. Then the soul will visit the underworld for judgment. After that, reborn happens. The terrible thing about it is the suicide attempt will repeat itself as many lifetimes as it goes. So
7.
this is terrible thing. So do not commit suicide.
What's the translation of that?
I don't know.
City of the dead?
They will have to do that.
It will-
Same torture.
Repeat.
Yeah, so it repeats itself somehow because it's stored in that alaya, right? Alaya conscious. So it's gonna come back to you.
No,
You know?
while before he went to the underworld, every 7 days he had to go through that killing himself.
Also after he's reborn, into the secular world.
Before he go to the underworld. Remember he killed
When
himself?
he's in the Huangzi, whatever that was.
Wangziten, yeah.
Then that's when every 7 days.
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
I
repeats
guess
itself.
it's like to punish them for killing themselves.
Yeah, you
That
don't
torture
want
of
to.
dying over and over is for
Until someone takes
Yeah.
his place.
You don't
someone
want
take
to.
his place.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's why they were saying like if someone get killed in this spot and then I don't know, like or somebody suicide in this spot and then every 7 days he will kill himself and until someone over there got killed over there
Again.
and then he's relieved.
this is what they mean when people get drowned in rivers.
Yeah, always
Yeah.
happens. Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
It has a tendency to happen near the same area.
Yeah, that's
It's
scary.
like negative energy. It's not good.
Okay, so I had quite a few, but let me just point out.
Interesting.
So here's another thing I thought was important to share. In enlightenment, like, right,
Negative karma.
death of sudden death. What she just said.
Oh, false.
No, right. It's not die in peace.
Right.
It's
Just violent death.
yeah. So enlightenment is not a theoretical understanding, but an existential breakthrough or a leap into a new world of consciousness. In order to transform the suicidal person's view about reality, which underlies his suicidal mindset, Ji-Gong has to conduct a show in which he plays a clown. So he, that's right. So like lecturer Tai mentioned, this is wisdom. This is how he uses wisdom, is to put himself in other people's shoes, to feel them, and then
To identify with them.
to identify, and that then see themselves.
Right.
See, you are, looking at yourself now. Can you get it?
To kind of awaken you, to wake you up.
Right, to wake
make
you up.
realize, understand you. So that's the idea, to provide, to get an opening. Right? To get an opening. Because you're so, let's say you're so stuck, or right, to the notion of, you want to kill yourself, or everything's no hope, hopeless. See, so the key is just that one little spark, right? It's the same metaphor of that. It's like a room full of darkness. It's like you are totally dark, but if you just have one photon, one little candlelight, then there's hope. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same idea, same metaphor.
So there's a quote that I thought it was interesting. One element, however, is common to all representation of Ji-Gong in fiction and religious practice alike: his laughter. Be it a novel on Ji-Gong or a spirit-written morality book contributed to him, an actor playing the eccentric god's role on the stage, or a medium possessed by him, the eccentric god always laughs. The meaning of laughter, however, essentially resists philosophical analysis. Ji-Gong's laughter, just like the one made by Mahakasyapa in the silent sermon given by the historical Buddha, cannot be reduced to conceptual statements. However, Zen's laughter is the richest and the most accessible sign that inspires and entertains Chinese people of all generations.
What laughter? Zen?
Yeah, it's identified as Tan. Yeah, Zen, right? Zen. Okay, thank
No
you.
more stories?
No more story. These are like the most popular ones,
Yeah,
and
those are
then
very
there are tons of them that you can find in the Dao Library. Dao Library has, what is it, 70-something episodes. You have to read them, and the story, even though each story has a topic or title, it continues. And there's a one has to do with Cao Cao. I guess it's not Cao Cao. Or maybe that was from TV show. I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes the
There's just
TV,
so many.
It's not, I don't want to say accurate. They kind of over, they make
Yeah,
things up
yeah.
too well.
They exaggerate
so you just
them.
gotta be careful. That's all. If you
Right.
they have, they have some TV shows, right? Several different
So many,
versions.
yeah.
There's one, several made by China, several, I think one made in Taiwan or something, Hong Kong.
Sure.
So there are different versions. Just be careful because some of those are not, they use creative license.
Yeah.
So just be careful. So that's all. Okay.
I saw a series when I was little. I thought him playing as Ji-Gong, that this actor playing as Ji-Gong is like really good. I don't know.
They're different. Several different actors that portray
Yes,
that
yes,
role.
uh-huh.
But the
They're
one
different
that I
series.
saw when I was kids, he was really good.
Kind of one from China.
Yeah.
It's better to
Yeah,
go
I've seen the
online
China
to the
one.
Dao Library and read
Right,
the
Dao
stories.
Library has
That's-
tons of them.
That's more accurate. That's a little bit more accurate.
So I read a little bit about this. The reason that he was born, because he was appointed by Lao Mu that he needs to go find this dragon. I think it was dragon. I forgot, but find something from the earthly world, and to bring it back. That was his mission.
Did he found?
He found, yes, he found.
What was it?
It was something that escaped from the heaven
Oh,
without
dragon.
permission. Yeah.
cheating.
See?
Some kind of animal. Like
It is some
it's like
kind
a
of.
lion.
Well, it has like
It is some kind of
features
animal.
like
Lion?
6 different animals or 5 different animals. You have a lion's head or lion's mane.
And a unicorn.
Like there's one horn, and then his hooves are different. I think
In Chinese,
that's
called
some of-
cheating, right?
Yeah, cheating. Yeah, and then his fur is spotted or something. I don't know. And his tail is different. There are different, like 5, 6 different features. It's like an exotic animal. Exotic.
Also, when he was 18, he went to this temple, right? And he was assigned to do writings. He's really good in writings. I guess that's why he's a poet,
The classics, yeah. He's
right.
very well read. Yeah.
Right, and you see
Young,
how many scripture are written by him.
Remember, he wrote that poetry to match another. That woman says, if this can solve this to
Oh,
match, then she will marry him.
Right.
And then he solved it, and then he had to come back as the 18th patriarch to marry his wife.
Yeah. That's
yeah. Okay. Anybody has any questions?
I guess we can discuss until.
Yeah. Isn't it time? Isn't time
know.
yet?
No, they have Belgian.
I know, but they should end already.
Yeah, it's past
Yeah,
12:30.
because
They're not doing it in there.
Yeah, so we can kuto in there.
Oh, okay.
Wait,
but
that's
they're not
sweet.
finished. But
They're
they're
not,
not.
Belgian is not.
No, but they're not.
Maybe they intend to extend it, so
Right.
it should be. No, it's ending now.
Oh,
It's
they're
ending
finished.
now.
Okay, perfect.
So.
Thank that you ask for forgiveness.
Oh. If I have said anything wrong, please
Ask heaven for
ask heaven for forgiveness.
So supposedly, right, Ji-Gong has multiple reincarnations in this cycle, right?
Oh, that's 72
He has
times, right?
72 times. So this is one time.
Yeah.
18 patriarchs is another time. So what about the other 70 times? They say he was the emperor,
Was he ever
first
a
emperor
woman?
of the Tang Dynasty.
Was he ever a woman?
Han Haizhong. Supposedly they said, right? That's what Kenny said.
Was he ever reincarnated as a woman?
I have no idea. Ask Holy Teacher.
Manjushri did. Manjushri
maybe.
Buddha.
Just like Guanyin Bodhisattva.
Right,
and
Guan-
Not
right.
originally a
Yeah,
woman.
he was a man.
Yeah.
Don't get attached to forms.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wonder how Ji-Gong Buddha is like as a woman.
So maybe next time when Ji-Gong Buddha is
You ask
here,
him.
you go. No,
He gonna
in
say
your
something
mind.
to you.
No, in your mind. Don't say out loud.
And it was like, yeah, in this lifetime.
That's funny. So you finish your.
But see, Buddha's
Yeah.
have a choice, you know that? That's part of the 10 freedom, liberation.
Yeah.
Because they have, I don't say they have the power, but they have the choice. They can decide, I want to incarnate as a woman, or as a child, or as a man, as a rich person, as a poor person, as a king, or as a beggar. you know, whatever, or even as an animal.
Right.
He was in the soup.
A tree, right.
Li Xianming was him.
Yeah, supposedly, yeah, the first Tang Empire, right? Tang, Cao. So the Tang became before Song, right? Tang Song. Yeah. So the previous incarnation before Ji-Gong, he was maybe like 400 years earlier. He was the Tang Dynasty emperor, supposedly, right?
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Yeah, he has a lot of wife on that lifetime.
Yeah, who knows? So he has a lot of, he created a lot of karma.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, emperor, he's an
Okay,
emperor.
and
And he killed all his brothers.
I know,
Yeah.
supposedly.
ask for heaven for forgiveness and
If I say anything wrong, I ask heaven for forgiveness.